Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, teams, wherever you are. So, a formal welcome. We are going to discuss about integration management. Why is this area important to project manager? So, you have different experts in projects. So, integration management is very important for a project manager because you have a lot of experts in a project. You take construction industry, you have masons, plumbers, architects, okay, designers. Well, each one is an expert in his own field. Each one is focused in his own silo. Likewise, you take IT industry. You have business analysts, developers, designers, UX experts, okay, architects, database administrators. So you have so many of them. When you have so many experts, why would they need a project manager? Because it is a project manager who combines the efforts of all the people and takes them in one direction. So most of the time, project managers are not very glamorous in the sense they are not experts in any field. Okay, that only makes them even more qualified to become project managers. Okay, so we as project managers are here to lead, direct, manage, get things done, deliver results. So that's about integration management. Fine. Now the agenda is we have a overview of project integration management. Then we'll cover the processes in integration management. So project integration management. Well, basically we agree we are all in projects. No, we are not in operations. Okay, operations are day-to-day things, right? For example, you go to a bank. Every day they give you cash, they accept cash, sanction loans, recover loans. Well, they're all day-to-day things. There is no start date, end date for that. As long as a bank runs, okay, operations will run. But projects don't have, projects have a definite start date and end date. Project is started with a particular purpose in mind. Once you deliver, operations give rise to project needs. For example, operations may require an improvement in existing software, or it wants to have a new software. Okay, so project teams are formed, then projects deliver. Once the project results are delivered back to operations, well, it stops being project. It is operations from then on, isn't it? But basically, we are not going into operations. We are into projects. That's why you have this word, project integration management. Okay. So what do we do here? We identify, define, combine, unify, coordinate the various processes and project management activities within the project management process groups. Okay, there are a lot of stuff in this. In other words, it is like a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so you just imagine you have lots of pieces of jigsaw puzzle. So we put them all together. That is what we project managers do. Okay, that is we identify activities. What are the activities you need to perform? To what? In order to create deliverables. What are these deliverables? These could be interim deliverables like your requirement documentation, design documentation. Okay, this could be anything, or this could be completed application functionalities. Fine, anything. So we define what are the activities you have to perform. Then we combine. We have to combine a lot of things because we come with plans for schedule, cost, scope, resources. Okay, we need to combine. Unless we combine all the different knowledge areas, we cannot really create deliverables, isn't it? Then we unify and coordinate the various processes and project management activities within the project management process groups. Okay, what are these process groups? See, broadly, there are 5 process groups. See, actually, when we start a project, we come with a project charter. So that is under initiating process group. Then based on the project charter, we plan for different things. We plan for schedule, we plan the scope. So there are totally 10 different knowledge areas for which we plan. So all the planning processes are covered under planning process group. Okay, different plans, right? Then we combine them into one big project management plan. Then once we have a plan, we have to put this into operations, isn't it? So we start executing. So all the processes we perform, the deliverables we create, they're all discussed under executing process groups. Then once the results are out, we have to know whether we are going as per the plan or not. So we have a process called monitor and control, where we compare the plan with the actual to know what the variances are, what these variances mean. Okay, so we have a lot of processes under monitoring control process group, right? Then you have close. We go through several phases in a project. No, we have to close every phase of a project and go to the next stage, isn't it? So we close a phase in a project or a project as a whole. Okay, so There are some 49 processes which are discussed in project management body of knowledge. There is a Bible for project managers, right? Project management body of knowledge. So these 49 processes are performed under 5 process groups and 10 different knowledge areas. Okay, these are things we'll discuss when you actually go there. Fine. Okay, so now we understand what are process groups. Fine. So there is a concept called trends and emerging practices at the beginning of each topic. Well, these should actually be discussed later on, right? I mean, what are the emerging practices? First, let's know what is that as per standard. Then we'll come to emerging practices, fine? Plus you have tailoring considerations. What is tailoring? What changes you need to make? We'll come to these later on, fine? So let's first of all come to processes. Okay, now look at these processes. These are all the processes you have in integration management. Okay, charter, plan, execution, knowledge, control, change, manage changes, close a project or a phase. Okay, so in this process, what do we do? In this process, we come with a project charter. What is a project charter? Project charter is a document that authorizes the initiation of a project. Okay, so the project charter lays down all our high-level stuff that will guide the project manager, and it will be signed off by a sponsor. It will be prepared by a project manager. So formally, it acknowledges existence of a project for the first time. Okay, then project charter gives you high-level stuff. It is something like a 50,000 feet above sea level, or you can call that drone view. Okay, so project charter only gives you a drone view. Based on that, we come with a detailed plan. Okay, and we come with plan for some 10 different knowledge areas, right? And we combine all of them. That is why you call that integration management, right? Then we put this plan into action. How? By applying organizational resources. What are resources? Money is a resource, people is a resource, infrastructure is a resource, like tools, you have project management information systems, we have different tools, isn't it, right? So you apply all this and we create deliverables. Okay, right? What are deliverables? They are work products, that's all. Then manage knowledge. How do you make sure the knowledge that we generate in the project doesn't go away when people leave the organization? How do you tap them? How do you retain them? Okay, we'll discuss that. Then monitor and control project work is where we compare the plan with the actual to know what the variances are. And what do these variances mean for forecasts, for cost, time, schedule, and so on. Okay. Then how do you manage changes? How do you close a project or phase, right? So this is the first process, develop project charter. So it's a formal document that authorizes a project. Okay, so this charter will help you in implementing the project. Fine. Okay, so only through a charter, project manager gains authority. Okay, he cannot apply organizational resources. He can't spend $1. He can't take one team member and make him work without this authorization. It's like a database certificate, okay, for individuals, or a memorandum of incorporation for a limited company. Okay, so it formally gives authority to the project manager to apply resources to project activities. Okay, so you can establish direct link between organization objectives and the undertaken project. So why is a project born? Project is born because organization can do only day-to-day things. Operations, operations, they can do only day-to-day things. Let's say it is sending reports to a central bank every day. Suddenly there is a new central bank regulation that tells you that you have to come with a new type of report. Well, operations team, they try to tweak that report. Well, they can't. Then they send a mail to the admin in corporate office. He tries to tweak, set up features. He can't. Then he decides, well, you require new formats, new database procedures, new development work, new architecture work. Then a request is made, a project is born. Then projects takes requirements from operations. It takes team members from operations to work on the project, and it takes team members to test the deliveries. And finally, when the deliverables are made to operations. Okay, so you have a connection between project and operations. What connects operations and projects? They are two different things. They are poles apart. Okay, we don't really, as project managers, we don't really get into day-to-day operations, but it doesn't mean we have nothing to do with operations. Everything that we do has to do with the operations, meeting the requirement of operations, but we will not get into operations. Okay, you should understand that subtle difference, right? So projects are the link between the organization objectives and the purpose for which the project is undertaken. Fine, yeah. Now, just look at this template. For every process, there are 49 processes I told you. For every process, you have this template. Okay, first you'll have inputs, then you'll have outputs. See, first you'll have inputs, then you'll have outputs. I'm sorry, these are tools and techniques, right? Then finally, you have output. Can you see this? There's an output. Okay, let me go back to where I left. So it's like this. See, let's say there is a process called make coffee. Okay, that's not a PMBOK process, right? That's not a project management process. Let's assume there is a project called make coffee. So what do you have to make? What do you require to make coffee? You require sugar, you require cream, you require coffee powder. These are all inputs, right? So what are the tools and techniques you use? You use stove. That's a tool. Technique would be boiling. Then what is the output? Output is cups and cups of hot coffee we enjoy, isn't it, right? So for every process, we'll be adopting this template, fine? You don't have to commit any of these to memory. It's enough if you understand what the output is, and for this output, what should be the input and tools and techniques in a logical manner, fine? So for developing a project charter, what inputs do you have? Okay, business documents. What's a business document? These two are called business documents. Okay, what are they? For example, business case, right? What is a business case? See, organization has limited funds. Let's say an organization has got $1 million, right? For Q1, that is all it can spend on new projects for Q1. Now, there are a lot of heads of strategic business units in the organization. All of them want to improve their department, improve their performance, bring about new applications, new software, or if it's a manufacturing department, every functional department head wants to improve some product, or some aspect of the product. Somebody wants to improve a steering system, somebody wants to improve ignition system, whatever it is. So everyone wants to improve their department. So all of them will make project requests, but you have only $1 million. When you add up all the project requests, it may come to say $100 million. So how are you going to select which project you'll put your money on? So you need to have a decision support tool. Okay, so business case is a decision support tool. So this happens before a project is born, right? So let's say you have a head of a strategic business unit in a treasury department and a bank, right? He wants to come with a new liquidity management application. He'll put up a request. He'll state what is the current problem or what is the opportunity that he wants to seize, right? Then he'll state what the as is position, what is the to be position, what are the alternatives to go from here to there, what is the solution vision, what are the must have features, what are the could have features, what could have features but won't have features. I mean, it comes with a prioritized list of requirements for the solution, right? And he makes a formal request. When this business case competes with several other business cases, then the organization applies some project selection methods. Okay, you have different methods like payback period, ROI, internal rate of return. Well, they are not really too important at this point of time to know, right? All we need to know that organization applies some project selection criteria and decides on which project to bet on. So let's assume that this project has been selected. So when you write a project charter, you have to take the business case as an input, because the charter would contain high-level stuff, high-level guidance for the project manager. So where do you get this guidance from? You must know why this project was born, right? Who are all the senior stakeholders involved in this business case process? Who is going to be using the application? Who are all the stakeholders who will be impacting this project, who will be impacted by the project, right? And we have to lay down why high-level objectives, high-level risk, high-level requirements. Then you have to come up with high-level business case would have some broad implementation strategy. For example, within how many months or how many years a project should be delivered. So you come up with high-level milestones. Then while formulating business case, they would have allocated some funds for this project. So you come with a pre-approved financial resources or a high-level budget, high-level risk. So all high-level stuff you have in business case that gets transferred into project charter, right? It's like buying something from shop and emptying it into your container at home. Okay, let's assume you bought a carton of Kellogg's, right? What do? You come home and empty that into another box, no, in your house. So that it's like that. Business case gets emptied into project charter. Fine. Then benefits management plan. There is an input. What is this? See, there was a time when project managers would think, well, I'm done with my project. Let me move on to other projects. They wouldn't care to know whether operations are using their project results or not. You would have rolled out some application into the operations. They would not be using it. You wouldn't care to know. Operations wouldn't care to use it. And you don't have a system in the organization that monitors whether it's being used or not. So with the result that millions of dollars were going down the drain, then came this benefits management concept. As a project manager, you have to make sure that the organization is in a state of preparedness to start anticipating receiving your benefits. For example, let's say you're rolling out a product. Okay. Now, what should be required to operationalize this product once you roll it out to the operations? Well, you should assume that the operations team will be in a state of readiness, isn't it? So what state of readiness? What do you mean by that? Well, you have to train them. So you should have identified the training requirements. Then you have to come with user manuals, FAQs, troubleshooting guides. Then operations team should have an onboarding process for the new customers. And you may have to even set up a new product department if it's a totally new product, isn't it? So you may have to set up a new product department. Marketing team should be ready with a marketing plan. Okay, and you should be able to state what are the anticipated benefits, and you should also state what are the metrics are. For example, when you started a project, high-level stuff, you would have thought that this project would bring around, reduce your turnaround time by 50%. So in a phased manner, you must be able to realize this. Or the sales would go up by 10%. So you should be able to realize it in a phased manner. So some benefits may accrue during the project itself, if it's a modular implementation or if it's an agile project. Or some benefits may happen much after the project results are delivered. Whatever it is, you must know when these benefits should be delivered. You should have a roadmap for that. You should have the metrics through which you'll measure whether benefits are accruing or not. And you must know whether the operation team is in a state of preparedness to accept. All the interfaces should be ready. Everything should be ready. Okay, so that is called as benefits management plan. So you don't have to write this benefits management plan. You only have to make sure you talk to the sponsor and the sponsor talks to the operational team and they have a benefits management plan. Okay, but you have to provide oversight to that process. You must know that it's that. You must make sure, right? So these are also inputs for project charter. So when you come up with this benefits management plan along with business case talks about anticipated benefits, and these are more stated in more concrete terms in a benefits management plan. Okay, so these are the two inputs. Then what else? What else? Agreements. See, there are two situations. You could be doing a project for your organization internally. Let's say you're developing an application, you don't have customers yet. It may take some 6 months to make this a full-fledged application. Later on, you may find a customer. So what does it mean? It's purely an internal project, isn't it? So if it's an internal project, you will still have a project charter, but you will not have an agreement. You will go for agreements only when this project is being done for an external customer. Let's say you're ABC company and you're doing a project for Dell USA, right? So Dell USA is requesting you. It's called requesting organization. You, ABC company, is a performing organization. So as a project manager of a performing organization, you must take into account the agreements and write a project charter. But if it's an internal project, well, you don't read an agreement. It's enough if you go through a statement of work. Okay. For an internal project, you will only have a sponsor. So you'll have an agreement called statement of work that will guide the project team and the sponsor. Okay. So you have to look into your situation. Fine. Then enterprise factors. See, these are all standard processes. I mean, these are standard inputs for every process. Okay. For example, you have to apply the industry standards. What are industry standards? Six Sigma is an industry standard. If you're in a pharmaceutical industry, FDA standards are mandatory, isn't it? Then legal regulatory requirements, you have to comply with all provisions of law. Marketplace conditions, let's say you're doing an infrastructure project. What are marketplace conditions? So you have to buy cement, steel, day in and day out. You must know what is the demand, what is the supply, what is the market share. Isn't it marketplace conditions? Culture, what is culture? Why is culture important? Culture could be safety, culture could be importance given to quality, culture could be risk-taking ability. So you should be acutely conscious of the culture of the organization, right? Political climate. So what is political climate? Where is politics in a project? Well, you'll have a lot of stakeholders in the organization, and you have to know who are politically influential guys. You cannot ignore them. If you ignore any politically important stakeholders, well, you'll be hurting them. They'll anticipate you to come and talk to them, tell them what your project is all about, how you're delivering. In fact, it's an advantage you can garner. Okay, you don't have to take part in politics in the organization. That is not what is meant. What is meant is understand the political system, understand who are the politically influential guys. There may be some stakeholders who really contribute in a big way to you. They may be providing team members to work in the projects. They may be funding the project. They may be sponsoring the project. They may be championing the cause of the project. So they are the guys who are going to be impacted by your project deliveries. They may be using your application. They may be giving you requirements. They may be giving you people to test your deliveries. But there may be a set of people who may not do any of these, but still they are influential in the organization. So make sure you don't ignore anyone. Fine. So being part of the political system is very, very important. Okay. See, knowledge is important. Skills are important. What is skills? Application of knowledge, which we gather partly through experience and partly through learnings like this. Then attitude, always be positive. In the most testing circumstances, attitude plus politics, political influence. It's very, very important. Okay, so all these are important. Then governance framework. So you have to come with series of changes to the plans. You'll first see, you always use a progressive elaboration. That is, nobody gives you a plan in hand when you start a project. So you have to talk to them, get a feedback, talk to them, get a feedback, talk to them, get a feedback. Through several feedback loops, we'll come with version 1 of a plan. Then subsequently, every change that we make has to be done with change control board's approval. So governance framework means members from the change control board, people who approve your quality assurance plans, okay, like people from QA board, risk directors, people who are going to be approving your project budget, your schedule. They're all from organization, isn't it? So you must understand how you get things done. What are the official frameworks, right, that you have to use? Fine. Stakeholders' expectations and risk thresholds. What are these expectations and risk thresholds? Basically, what is a risk threshold? Let's say an organization got a project for $2 million. It would like to have a profit of $0.5 million. So the rest of the $1.5 million is what it is prepared to spend on the project. You should never exceed this. You cannot put your hands into the profit of the organization. They'll not like it. So these are called risk thresholds. Okay. So the comfort zones within which you take decisions, you must be aware of that. Okay. What are we discussing in the context of? We are discussing these in the context of writing a project charter. As a project manager, you must do that, right? Then organizational process assets. So you have standard policies, procedures for your organization. You have to adopt that, right? At times you may be part of a program or a portfolio. What is portfolio? Portfolio is about maximizing returns of investment. Organization would like to shuffle resources, people, money, material between projects, depending on how important each one is, isn't it? That is portfolio management. Program management is all about combining multiple projects and managing them together as one program, because you may have some significant advantages by combining them. They may have common interfaces, common risks, common technology, common type of people, common project objectives, right? So it makes sense to combine them as programs. So if your project is part of a program, you have to be part of program management. You may have common budgets, common expenditure reviews, right? And so on, right? Templates, historical information of the earlier projects. See, when you don't have anything to start with, you got a mail saying that you're a project manager. Well, you have to write the plans, charters. So how do you begin? The best thing to go is to PMO and ask them, is there any other project we have done earlier? They'll say, yeah, there are some projects we have done. They'll give you links. Those links are to the historical knowledge base. You have to access this, right? So that will help you, fine. So these are all the inputs. Then you have tools. We have come to tools. Expert judgment. What type of expertise? If you have to start a project, you require expertise. You have to onboard expertise into your project. What happens if you have a project and you don't know how to do it? Okay, you need people who should tell you. It's your responsibility to onboard. You have to find people. You may not get all of them from your project. You may have to find people from organization. At times, if they are not an organization, you have to get them from outside. How you do that is your responsibility. Okay, for example, I was involved in a project for launching a public issue. Okay, because we were going for a transformation project, business transformation project, we had to raise funds. Now for this project, just imagine, simple project that lasts for 120 days. You know the type of experts we have to get? We have to get experts from capital market. Then we have to get people from broking community, then banking community. Then we had to deal experts with central bank. Okay. Then we needed experts who deal with SEBI because we have to get this prospectus approved. Then we have to deal with National Stock Exchange. That's where we have to get the shares listed. Then we have to get experts from registry because they are the ones who are going to manage the public issue. Then you have a lot of other merchant bankers. Just imagine, just for a small project spanning 120 days, if you have so much of expertise required, without this, you cannot do anything. You have to find experts, okay? And make sure you make use of their expertise, right? Then interpersonal team skills. What are these? See, these are soft skills, right? What soft skills like? You need to have skills to facilitate. What is facilitation? Basically, we should understand one thing. We are project managers. We are not experts in anything. We are only generalists. We just keep the ball rolling. We just make sure people meet, take decisions consistently, right? We cannot take decisions ourselves. So we need to have a lot of facilitation skills. How do you make sure people stay focused? The project objectives, they don't deviate. How do you make sure they don't get into endless disputes? How do you facilitate? How do you take decisions? How do you get buy-in? So conflict management, brainstorming, okay, facilitation. These are all very important. You must be wondering what conflicts you can expect when you launch a project. We haven't even started yet. You could have a lot of, conflicts. For example, you may have conflict about a vision for a product. Somebody might say, we'll have a very broad vision. Let us have 50 product features. Somebody else says, no, just let's have a vanilla product. You may have disputes relating to technology. Somebody might say, let's just use a simple spreadsheet for scheduling. Somebody else might say, no, let's go for Primera, Microsoft project. Somebody might want to outsource major components of the project because he might believe that we should only focus on core competence. Where we are good, we have to deliver. The rest of it, we have to outsource. But somebody else might insist on learning value. He says, well, if we keep on outsourcing, when are we going to learn? So we'll have a lot of conflicts. How to resolve these conflicts? Okay, so for this, you require a lot of interpersonal team skills. Meetings, okay, we know what meetings are, and you have to gather different type of data, fine, okay. And at the end of this process, we have a project charter, then assumptions log, okay. So project charter is a high-level thing. It tells you high-level purpose, high-level requirements, then high-level risk, then high-level milestones. Okay, you don't have a detailed schedule at this point of time with start date, end date, because we don't know the scope yet. We only have milestones, 3 months requirements, 3-month design, 3-month development. Okay, then high-level budget. Okay, very high-level budget. All this could change. And finally, it's signed off by the sponsor, and it names a project manager by name. Okay, and you also come up with an assumptions log. Assumption log contains 2 things: all major assumptions we make and constraints. Okay, so what is a constraint? Constraint is anything that we have to respect. We cannot violate. Law is a constraint. Can we violate law? No. Contract with the customer is a constraint. Budget is a constraint. Schedule is a constraint. So whatever high-level stuff we lay down now, which cannot be violated, they become the focus of further attention in the project, isn't it? So this assumption log would be stating all the high-level stuff. Okay, it's a very high-level document, fine. Yeah. So that's about project charter. Now let's go to the next process, develop project management plan Here we come with different plans. See, you have some 10 knowledge areas. Okay, so what do you do here? You develop a project management plan. Okay, you define, prepare, coordinate, blah, blah, blah. What it actually means is you have some 10 knowledge areas. Okay, they are integration, scope, schedule, cost, quality, then risk, communications, procurement, stakeholders. So these 10 knowledge areas have 10 different plans. So simultaneously, you have to come with bits and pieces of all these plans, and you have to combine them into one big master plan. That is called as project management plan. The word develop means combining, unifying, integrating. Okay, so we'll not be discussing the actual plans. We will discuss the actual plans when we go to the respective knowledge areas. Okay, but here we are only discussing about a development process, combining process. So what is the process we use? We have a process called progressive elaboration. This is the mantra for project managers. We have to understand bits and pieces of plan, and we have to improve upon it. You cannot wait for a perfectly completed plan and then start the project. We will never start a project. Okay, right? So there are two project managers. One guy wanted to have the perfect plan to start. So he did analysis, only analysis. He was just doing that. Finally, he got paralysis by analysis. Okay, so we are not such project managers. Rather, we are going on progressive elaboration. We understand bits and pieces and develop that. So this process tells you how to integrate multiple plans. Fine. So what are the inputs? You have project charter that gives you high level stuff. Whatever is there in project charter alone can get into the plans. If something is not covered in the charter, you cannot put them in the plan. Okay, right? It's like a constitution. Every government is a constitution, no? US government, Indian government. So what do you have in a constitution? It tells you what you can do, what you cannot do, isn't it? You have several state governments. All these governments can formulate dozens of laws, hundreds of laws. They keep doing all the time. As long as the laws are consistent with the constitution, it is fine. But if it goes against the constitution, it will be struck down by Supreme Court, no? Okay. So you guys should all wear the wig of a Supreme Court judge. Okay, that wig they wear, no, right? And they have a gavel in hand, right? You must do that because a lot of stakeholders will come with a lot of project requests, which are against the project charter. If you just keep on accepting everything, you can never deliver, or you can deliver on time, deliver within budget. It'll take too long. By the time you deliver, the whole thing could be junk. So you have to be very, very strict in dealing with requests for changes, right? You have to go strictly by what the project charter wants, right? You can resist temptation to add changes. You can tell them to take that up as some project or take it up as a separate project, okay? So you should not allow them to hinder your progress. You have to proceed. You have to stop accepting changes and start delivering, fine? So project charter provides you guidance on that, fine? Then output from the process, I told you, there are some 10 knowledge areas. Okay, for example, I'll just give an overview. The first process is planet scope management. Okay, in scope management, what you do is you collect requirements and you come with a scope statement. Now the scope statement would be descriptive. It may run to hundreds of pages. If you give this to a team member, they don't know when to start, where to start, what are the dependencies. So you break it down into tree form. You call these guys and say, John, this is your deliverable. This is requirement documentation for interface writers. You have to deliver it. You come with a plan. You define what activities you have to do and sequences into a network diagram and tell me who's going to be working on this and how many days they're going to take. So in scope management, you define what work you have to do, right? Then you go to schedule management. In schedule management, you come with network diagrams. Okay, let's say this is one network diagram for one work package like Reuters interface. So let's say there are 4 activities, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So number of days for this is 2 days, 2 days, 2 days, 2 days. So you come with a Gantt chart. Gantt chart tells you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Gantt chart tells you the first activity will take 2 days, next 2 days, then 2 days, 2 days. So you convert scope into schedule. So that is what you do in schedule management knowledge area, right? Now, if you have to perform these activities, you require people, no? You require born business analyst, you require laptops, you may have to have travel. If it is infrastructure project, it may involve steel, cement. Okay, so whatever resource requirements, people resources, material resources, all these cost of resources are added at these activity levels. Okay, so that you know for this particular work package, okay, what is the cost? So in the third process, cost management knowledge area, you add up the cost estimates of all the hundreds of work packages you have in a project, and you come with a budget. Okay, so that is cost management. So these three are called as performance measurement baseline. A project will always be measured against scope, cost, and schedule, isn't it? When somebody asks you how's your project, you'll not say, well, I was given 3 months, I completed in 3 months. No, they'll ask you the next question, have you delivered everything? You have to say, yeah, I delivered everything. Then they won't stop there. They'll ask you, what about the cost? Were you within budget? Yeah, I was within budget. So they're very happy. Okay, they'll argue, right? So a project will always be measured against three baselines. That is why you call this performance measurement baseline. So you combine not only this, then after schedule, cost, you have quality. You have to incorporate quality requirements, industry quality, benchmarks, regulatory quality, customers quality, organizations consistent quality across all projects. And you have to come up with methods of demonstrating quality. So you come with the next plan, quality management plan. You do the testing and you demonstrate results through testing. So after quality management plan, you have to come with resource management plan. So what do you do in resource management plan? How do you estimate resource requirements for all the work packages? How to acquire them? What are the ways in which you can acquire them? Then how do you train them? How do you develop them? How do you manage them? How do you manage disputes? How do you manage issues? How do you decide performance criteria? How do you come up with rewards recognition, right? So all this you have a resource management plan. Okay, then you have communication management plan. So in communication management plan, see, you're a project manager all the time smiling. Okay, never losing cool for a moment. You have a lot of stakeholders you deal with. Senior guys, they just want red or green stuff. They don't want detailed information. Then you have people in the middle management. Then you have people, the team members. You have to deal with them very extensively. The more information they give, the more hungry they are. You can't satisfy them. So different stakeholders have different information requirements. You have vendors. You have to tell them how they are performing, what SLAs they have to meet, what quality criteria they have to meet. Then you have suppliers. Then you have PMO, program manager, right? Project management office, program manager. So a lot of stakeholders. Each one has got a different communication requirement within the team. How does a developer communicate with the business analyst? How does a business analyst communicate with developer? For example, he writes requirements, get them peer reviewed, and he uploads in a requirement tool. And it provides access to all the stakeholders who give sign off. From there, it goes to development, from that design, isn't it? So you have workflow systems and you have to decide on the technology, things like that, no? So that is about communication management plan. How do team members communicate among themselves with external stakeholders, right? Then you have risk management plan. What is risk? Anything that you do in projects have risk. What is the risk? Any uncertainty that could impact your project objective. Timely delivery, delivering within budget, delivering 100% of what you promised, maintaining basic quality criteria, keeping the team members morale high. These are all project objectives, no? If any uncertainty could threaten these project objectives, you call them risk. So how do you identify risk? How do you prioritize risk? How do you come with risk mitigants? How do you deal with risk? You know, that is a risk management plan, right? Then comes procurement management plan. If you decide to outsource something, how do you structure a statement of work? How do you deal with your procurement manager and structure a contract? How do you send an RFP? And once you get the seller's response, how do you negotiate, conclude contracts? How do you monitor contract performance? How do you manage disputes in a contract? Okay. Then you have a project management plan called stakeholder engagement plan. Sorry, stakeholder management plan. So how do you identify stakeholders? Then how to conduct profile analysis meetings with them, how to understand which are the areas where they are strong, where they can help you in running the project in matters relating to risk, quality, etc., etc. How do you document the requirements, expectations from the product? How do you satisfy them? So these are all the 10 different knowledge areas. So all these knowledge areas, you call them subsidy plans and baselines. They're all combined into a project management plan. That's why they're inputs. Okay. Then enterprise, same thing. We don't have to discuss about that same thing that we saw for project charter. is discussed here. Here also organizational process assets, fine, no different, fine, yeah. Then tools and techniques. Again, the tools are same. Expert judgment, you have to get expertise from different knowledge areas. Okay, how to identify, how to manage risk, how to manage durations, how to schedule a project, how to manage cost, right? So we have to get experts from different knowledge areas, right? Data gathering, interpersonal team skills. Okay, here also we have conflict resolution, brainstorming, meetings management, meetings, fine. Then meetings, fine. So all these are required, and you come up with the master plan called project management plan. Okay, I'm sorry. So we come with a project management plan. So this combines what? 10 different subsidiary plans into one big project management plan. Okay. Then we go to the next process, direct and manage project work. So what do you do if you have a plan without implementing it? So we have to implement, no? Okay, let's do that implementation. We are excellent in doing that, isn't it? Yeah. So what do you do here? As the word suggests, you do work. Then once you do work, what happens? You come with deliverables. Okay, so these could be interim deliverables, these could be final deliverables, whatever it is. Okay, so let's see what are the inputs for this project management plan. That is what we're going to implement. How are you going to implement a plan? What is that to implement in the plan? Okay, plan tells you how much resources you're authorized to spend, how many people you're authorized to take, from organization, a lot of things, how to manage this, how to define quality. So you take all this into account and create deliverables, right? Project documents, change log. See, these are all, you have hundreds of project documents. Okay, you don't need to know everything at this point of time. Change log tells you what changes have been approved that need to be implemented. Lessons learned, every time you perform a process, you sit with the team members and decide what went right, what went wrong, right? What are milestones? Milestones are significant even than the life of a project. For example, for a business analyst, requirement sign off is a milestone. So he has to be cautious about milestone. He should not miss the milestones. No, that is why it's an input. Project communications, you would have made a lot of communication to stakeholders. They have given you feedback. They would have given you suggestions for improvements, etc., etc. So that should also guide you in delivering and directly and manage project work. It's about execution. Schedule. What does the schedule tell you? It tells you when you have to start an activity, when you have to end, how many days you have to take, how much of resources you have to consume, how much time you have to spend on that, isn't it? So schedule will help you do the work. Requirement traceability matrix. See, this is something where you will map your deliveries to requirements through tests. So as you do the testing, you have to capture the test results in the traceability matrix and show this to the customer. And he'll be satisfied. Only then he'll give you sign off. Risk register, risk report. Any risk that you anticipate, you must identify and you have to manage it. Okay, fine. For example, you might anticipate the risk of a particular interface not being available. So that is a risk you've documented. How do you deal with this? Well, you'll provide some 10 extra days in case this risk could happen. If the risk doesn't happen, you don't use this 10 days. If it happens, you'll take this extra 10 days, isn't it? To postpone the implementation to the next window. Okay, fine. Then comes approved change request. Whatever changes have been approved have to be implemented. Okay, right, you would have written a code, the code would have been wrong, you would have designed a prototype, the prototype would be wrong. So there are totally 3 types of change requests: corrective, preventive, defective repair. Defective repair is very straightforward. A wrong code, wrong requirement documentation, whatever it is, you have to straightaway rectify it. Corrective action is, you have baselines. Projects have baselines. You have to go strictly by baselines. If the baseline has deviated too far, you have to come with a new baseline. So that's a corrective action. Preventive action is, why did this baseline change happen? Because you made some wrong assumptions about estimates. You have to correct your assumptions so that this does not happen again. So preventive action is something that you do right now in order to prevent potential non-conformance happening later on. Okay, so any of these 3 types of change requests need to be implemented. Fine. Then enterprise factors. These are pretty standard. You don't have to do this every time. And the output is, yeah, organizational process assets. Okay, whatever deliverables we created is part of the organization. Whatever lessons learned, it becomes part of the organization. Issue, a lot of issues we face, data not being available, interface not being available, team members not being available. Whatever issues we face, we have to document it and to escalate to find the solution, isn't it? Fine. So all these are examples of organizational processes, right? Then at the end of it, yeah, we have tools, the same tools. Yeah. Expert judgment, that's a common tool. PMIs, can we execute without tools? No, tools are absolutely important. Requirements tool, procurements tool, testing tool, isn't it? Messaging tool, right? All these tools are important, right? Meetings. Okay. Then finally, we come with deliverables, work products, then work performance data, like how many days you took, how much money you consumed, how many defects you created, like that, right? Issue log, you'll definitely face a lot of issues. You have to document these issues and you have to resolve this by assigning some owners for this. Then change request. So when there is a non-conformity, you have to ask for a change. For example, a prototype of a pen cap should be 1 centimeter, let's assume, right? When you prototyped, it was 1.2 centimeters, which means you have to redo. So you have to generate a change request. This will involve extra time, extra money. You have to get permission, right? Plan updates, plans would get updated, documents would get updated, and all the organizational process assets, they'll also be getting updated. Okay, then let's come to the next knowledge area, manage project, next process rather. What is this managed knowledge? See, a lot of people leave the organization, they take away the long knowledge with them. So we have to make sure we retain that knowledge. So there are basically two types of knowledge. One is called explicit knowledge, the other one is implicit knowledge. Explicit knowledge is what you find in what is codified. You find them in data flow diagrams, requirement documentation, design documentation, FAQs, user manuals, troubleshooting guides. Well, you go through an application, that itself gives you a lot of knowledge. They're not documented, they're there in black and white. It will not go away. But what about knowledge that resides in the minds of people, that comes out of experience, their insights, knowledge that resides in social groups? We need to capture that. Okay, so where do you find this knowledge? That is what this process is all about, right? Use existing knowledge and add invisible knowledge. Okay, so project management plan, all the plans you have to analyze. Then project documents, so lessons learned. Every time we document lessons learned, okay, that becomes knowledge. Project team assignments, as soon as you acquire people and you send them to project work, you give them assignments, no? From the assignments, you could know what are their qualifications, experience, earlier projects handled, competencies. So you can talk to them and document knowledge. Resource breakdown structure is a tool that tells you where you have resources. So you look into the resource breakdown structure and you can decide whom to talk to and get the knowledge. Stakeholder register. These people you identify, talk to them, know which are the areas of their strength. They can help you run the projects, give you knowledge. That document, that is useful for documentation, right? Like that. Then deliverables, all the deliverables, they are rich source of knowledge, right? Then enterprise factors, whatever knowledge you acquired, you have to update at the end of the process. Okay, yeah, see, all the knowledge that you get, formal knowledge and information sharing procedures should be updated here, fine. So what are the tools and techniques for this? Expert judgment, there's a common tool. Knowledge management, okay. Information management, see, these are two things. What is knowledge management? Knowledge management is like people to people, like establishing communities of practice for agile, establishing communities of practice for business analysis. So where people with like-minded ideas discuss and evolve a lot of knowledge for the organization. That is knowledge management, people to people. Information management is library services, internet services. You have to provide both. Okay. Interpersonal team skills. Okay. What are interpersonal skills? For example, active listening is very important. What is active listening? See, if knowledge has to be shared, people should be prepared to listen and people should be prepared to share. Both are important, isn't it? If you don't listen actively, will people share with you? No. So what is active listening? Listening to people carefully. Okay, but why don't people want to listen? Well, if they listen, some bad truths may come out. Okay, they're not prepared to face that Pandora's box. Unexpected problems may crop up. Or we just want to listen to what we want to. We don't want to listen what we don't want to. So there is also prejudice. We have some preconceived ideas. We don't want anybody to violate that. Or when somebody is speaking, we might be formulating a response, okay, or trying to understand what it means to us rather than really listening, isn't it? Somebody might be saying, well, there is an excellent business analyst who has just joined. Well, instead of listening to that keenly, you would be looking to, well, can I get this guy onto my team? Okay, so we are not listening actively. We are formulating a response. Before he completes, you can ask him, can you send him to my team? Isn't it? And why do people not talk? Again, they might feel that, oh, this is a problem. Why should I talk? Why should I make my position so vulnerable? Well, this problem is going to get resolved next week. Or it might expose my soft underbelly. People might think these are my weaknesses. I will not discuss my problems. Or you will not have a spirit of personal trust. There may be a lot of criticism. People don't want to discuss new ideas because if the ideas fail, they'll be criticized. Okay, personal safety will not be there. So we have to provide an atmosphere of trust where people will not be criticized. Where people's personal safety would be assured regardless of what they discuss. Okay, so unless you have that active listening, you cannot develop knowledge. Fine. Okay. Then comes outputs. Lessons learned is updated with what? Both explicit and tacit knowledge. Plans are updated, then document also updated. Fine. So we have the next process called monitor and control project. What is this? See, as project managers, we have an important responsibility of informing organizational stakeholders what's happening in the project. Okay, so let's see how we do this, right? This is about generating reports. You have to tell team members, organizational stakeholders what is happening, right? So how do we do this? Let's see what are the inputs for this process, right? So project management plan, you have to say how the plans are working. So you take that as an input, right? Then project documents, assumptions. You would have come up with a lot of assumptions relating to duration, cost, and that will be covered in the base of estimates. So it might not have worked. You have to explain why, what went wrong, what went right. Cost forecast. See what happens. Let's say this is June. You should have spent $10,000 by June. You have actually spent $15,000. So there's a negative variance. So if you're already having a negative variance of $5,000, when you complete the project, what will be the actual budget? That is, you have to come with cost forecast. You have to come with schedule forecast. I should have completed these deliverables by 3 months, but I've taken 4 months, which means I'm not going to be able to complete the project in 12 months. I may take 15 months. So schedule forecast. Milestone list, have you reached or not? Quality report, stakeholders would like to review quality before accepting deliveries. Quality reports. Risk register, how is the risk profile of the project evolving? Is it within risk threshold or is it exceeding the threshold? They would like to know, isn't it? So you take them as input. Then work performs information from different knowledge areas. What is information? For example, you compare, cost variance is information, schedule variance is information. So any difference between planned and actual is called information. This is meaningful, right? So you combine all this, and what else? Agreements. In case there are some vendors to whom you have outsourced, you must state how the vendors are performing. Agreements contains the dates on which they have to deliver, the SLAs they have to keep up, quality criteria they have to keep up. So are they delivering as per agreements? You have to inform, isn't it, right? Then enterprise, these are all pretty standard organizational processes. And tools and techniques, same expert judgment, decision making. Why you have to combine, synthesize, consolidate, analyze, interpret all these information, no? So decision making is important, right? Data analysis, meetings, fine. Then you come with what? Work performance report. This tells you how the project is going. Okay. Then change request. You might feel that some changes required. Okay, for example, you may ask for extra time, extra money, reduction in scope, dilution of testing quality requirements. So you may generate a lot of change requests so that you can conform to the plan. Okay, right? Now, then plan updates and document updates. Fine. So basically, it's all about informing stakeholders what's happening in the project. Fine. So we have the next process called integrated change control. What do we do here? We manage all changes. Okay, what should be an attitude towards change? Well, we have to be very careful in managing changes, right? Because as it is in waterfall projects, it's going to take you a long time to deliver. So you should know that you should not exceed your timelines, your budget, because by the time you deliver, if there is too much of delay, product might be useless, isn't it? So focus on delivering what you accept rather than just keep on accepting changes. So you have to carefully manage change. But change is not inevitable. You must have change if the regulation requires, if the market requires, if the product owner requires. Okay. Yeah. So what do we do here? So you control various change requests. You will get change requests from dozens of stakeholders, internal, external team members. Team members want to improve a product. Customers want to improve the competitiveness of the product. Regulators want you to improve the compliance, right? Your organization may want you to improve the profitability of a project. So you have change requests. Architects wants to improve the architecture. So you have change requests coming from different stakeholders. You have to process all of them. So you have to approve, modify, etc., right? So how do you perform this process, right? So the inputs, project management plan. Okay, within that you have change management plan, configuration management. Change management plan tells you how to act with changes. You have a workflow process. Every change request should come in rating. It should be documented in the workflow tool. Then you have to push it before change control board. Change control board, once it takes the decision, you have to configure the changes in the production server. Or if it is a manufacturing industry, the change to the prototype should be rolled out to operations so that they can manufacture. So how do you make configurations? How do you impact the scope, schedule, cost baseline? Okay, so these are all inputs, fine. Then what else? Then you have project documents, base of estimates. So when a change request is made, you have to say how much extra time you require, extra money you require, extra people, what changes you have to make to scope. So what's the basis of your assumptions? Then some changes, for example, when you're implementing a change in the code, change control board would like to review the test conditions, test results to make sure it is safe. Risk report, it talks about any risk that a particular change entails. Okay, fine. Then work performance report, change control board would like to know how are we performing in terms of cost performance index, schedule performance index. Should we recommend change? Should we entertain change at this request? If we entertain change, does the project have enough people to manage this, or should we provide extra people or extra money? So that they would like to look into the status of the project on different. Okay, so you have, they look into resource availability, schedule data, cost data, earned value reports, burn up, burn down charts. This is in agile projects. Okay, burn up tells you what rate, what is the work that is being completed. Okay, burn down tells you what is the work that is remaining. Okay, fine. So they would look into all these to know whether a change request can be handled or not, right? Then comes change request itself. The change request that we make, it could be corrective action, preventive action, defect repair, right? We saw that there are 3 types of changes. Then enterprise, these are pretty standard, right? Then tools, expert judgment, change control tools. What does a change control tool do? It will help you log the change request, provide a workflow, and communicate decisions to answer them. Then they'll take a decision whether the change has to be permitted, rejected, deferred, or should further analysis be done before it is accepted. So whatever decisions they take in the meetings holds good. Data analysis, fine. So at the end of this, they would approve change, which includes rejections, modifications, anything, updates to plans and documents, fine. Yeah. Then finally, we have close project. What do we do here? We have multiple phases in a project, no? Say requirements, design, development. So we have to close a phase. So what do you mean by closing a phase? You have to, for example, at the end of the requirements, requirement documentation be presented to stakeholders. You have to explain each and every requirement. You call that walkthrough, no? Requirement walkthrough. They will give a sign off, or they may ask you to redo it, whatever it is. At the end of a phase, they'll take a decision whether it is fit to be moved to the next stage. Okay, so you close this page and go to the next phase. Finally, you close the last phase and move to operations. Okay, these are the things you do in this process, right? Close project or phase. So I'll explain to you, right? What is this? Let us go to the inputs. So what do you take as inputs? Charter. Charter tells you what is the high level success criteria. When you launched a project, you knew how the project should look like, what product feature it has to deliver. So you take that as a guidance, fine, to make sure you will get a sign off, right? Then project management plan, well, when you perform project activities, where are they described? They're described in project management plan. So you'd like to document that as an input, isn't it, right? So you should always assume that you're not going to be in this project any longer because project is closing. Operations team should know everything that they need to know about this project, right from business case to delivery. So you create a project file, including everything, project charter, project management plan, everything, project documents. Okay, all the assumptions we made, all the changes that were made, the milestones missed, reached, all communications with stakeholders, what quality control measurements we came up with before deliverables were accepted, requirements, risk, everything, fine. Accepted deliverables, fine, whatever deliverables were accepted, only then you can move it to operations, no, right? Then business documents, especially business case, benefits management plan. We have to know whether benefits have started accruing. You have to state that in the project file, right? Then agreements, if it is a contract with the vendor, well, vendor tells you, I mean, we have to accept deliveries, make out payments, and get a discharge from the vendor saying that we have met all our obligations. Okay, so agreements tells you how to close procurements with vendors, right? Then procurement documentation, I told you, no, statement of work, etc., that tells you how to close the procurements. Then these are pretty standard, fine. Then tools and techniques, expert judgment meetings, data analysis. Finally, what happens? The final version of the document is updated with the new version number. Likewise, the final product service or result is transition to operations. Now operations can use it in the production, or manufacturing can start using the prototype for coming up with the routine parts, right? Then final report contains everything that happened in the project right from start to end, and organizational process sets are updated. Yeah, so this is integration management knowledge area. So thanks all of you. Goodbye. Have a great day.